Okay, so I just showed you a few notes about notes. Now I want to share with you my flow approach. Okay, and what I mean is when I write my speeches, I write them in such a way that they have a similar flow. And what this does for me is this creates comfort, and this allows me to be myself and to be as effective as I can, because all of my speech notes look the same. So it may be foreign to the uninitiated, but for me, it makes perfect sense. So I want to show you how I go about writing my notes in a way that make me comfortable. Okay, so I start out with the title. The title is always here in bold red. Then I include my name. In this case, it will be your name, the date that it was written and or revised. Okay, the date that it was written and or revised, the places that I use this same speech, and also the dates that I use them with. Then I lay out the introduction, as you see it here, the discussion, and the conclusion. They're always left, bold, black, underlined. So that lets me know that this is a main section of the speech. Now, what you'll discover is, or what you might recall from the course, is that the introduction is 20% of the speaking time. The discussion is 70% of the speaking time, and the conclusion is 10% of the speaking time. And so all of my introductions have this similar flow. There's either an opening story or quote that previews the main thing. The goal of the introduction is to grab attention and communicate the thing in a way that's creative before the people realize what you're actually here to talk about or here to do today. Then, once you've used a story or a quote to preview the thing, then you draw out the thing plainly, because you don't want people to hear the story or hear the quote and not understand the thing. So you start with some creative or powerful way to preview the thing. Then you state the thing plainly. And for me, I use something called a big idea. A big idea is the main thing communicated in a pithy, memorable way in less than 17 words. All right, so you want it to be something that people will walk away being able to say over and over and over. It's the main thing communicated in a pithy. It's got to be catchy, memorable, unforgettable. And it's got to be less than 17 words, because if it's a, paragraph, it's going to be hard for people to remember. So all of my introductions have a similar layout, similar flow. Once I move from my introduction, I input what's called transition statements, usually. And these transition statements are always italics, over to the left, italicized, over to the left. And these are the statements that link the last thought to the next thought. Then I move to my discussion. Remember, the discussion is 70% of the speaking time. Notice my main points are what? Royal blue, bold, and underlined in all of my speeches, on all of my notes. The way that I flow through my points is I typically define the point. I use a direct quote to support the point. I describe the idea in original ways. I don't use other people's words. I only use their direct quotes, okay? Then I give practical application for either how to use it or let it influence you. And then I may include a story, joke, or analogy that depicts it. Now, this is the typical flow, but sometimes I move these content or these, hacks around under the point. But the idea is still the same. In all of my main points, it is these things that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to define something for you. I may quote it to support it from an authoritative source. I'm trying to use original, fresh terminology so that it's not cliche. Then I want to give you practical application, so you're not burning mental calories trying to figure out how to use this new information. And then I lighten the mood with a story, joke, or an analogy that really helps to depict it, because the picture can clarify the words that I give. And so I use that same flow in all of my main points with transition statements between. Then I come to my conclusion, which is 10% of the speaking time. And in the conclusion, I typically restate the big idea, and then I try to come up with a creative or poignant way to end it so that it's unforgettable. Now, one of the ways you can do this is called inclusio. Inclusio is simply the the skill or the tactic of using a story that you open with but don't end, going through the speech, and at the end of the speech, you go back to the story that people thought you forgot about and you end it. This is not just something that is unique to public speakers. I've watched comedians do this very well. A good example is Dave Chappelle in some of his last stand-ups. Whether you agree with the content or not, the skill he's using to communicate is he'll start a story or a joke, you'll think he forgot about the joke, and then he'll come back around and give you the punchline, you know, a long time later, and then it brings this thing full circle. That's one way that you can connect your intro to your conclusion and end that conclusion powerfully. Another way is to state that big idea. Another way is to bring in all the emotion that you can to help solidify this as an unforgettable experience. So here's my flow. And now I'm going to show you an actual speech that has this exact flow that I've used before. And guess what? I'm going to give you the notes to this speech. So if you want to use it for yourself, by all means, you can do so.